Which conspiracy theory do you believe is true? I'm tempted to believe the one about Michael Jordan's first retirement being a secret suspension for betting on games. The first NBA draft lottery was rigged to give Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. On the video, the commissioner pulls an envelope out with a clearly bent corner and sighs a huge sigh of relief when he reads what's inside. I've always thought that competition reality shows purposefully send someone home each season that deserves to stay, so that people get mad and talk about it online and get other people interested in watching the show. That Corey Feldman is right, and there is a casting couch for kids in Hollywood to get roles in. Parents are too blinded by the thought of stardom that they turned a blind eye in the past. I really hope it isn't true, but that Harvey Weinstein and the movie Bombshell make me fearful that scum is everywhere in that town. There are only 42 questions ever asked on this sub, and they are randomly posted by a bot. I think the bot needs work though. This one was just asked 2 days ago. Governments spread wild and crazy conspiracy theories to discredit conspiracy theorists and make them look like lunatics. That way, when someone actually finds a real conspiracy, people will just go, "Oh, it's one of those crazy guys." Government keep asking people on our AskReddit about the conspiracies they believe in so that they can do better job at hiding it. Wait a minute, our phones are listening to us. Two that I think are legit. The National Child Identification Program. The one that offers parents the chance to get their children photographed, fingerprinted, document noticeable scars, ailments, etc., is really just a ploy for the government to gather as much information willingly from the populace, under the guise of keeping your children safe. Certain things are being changed or eliminated to promote consumerism. Home EC, woodshop, etc., are no longer taught in many schools. Headlights on your car that you previously could change for $5 now cost $125 and must be done by the dealer or mechanic. Planned obsolescence means products are designed to fail, so consumers must consistently buy new products, so on and so forth. That hot dog manufacturers have a secret agreement with the bun companies to produce different amounts of each product. I don't know the numbers exactly, but for example, you need dogs for a cookout, so you buy some, and the only available package size is 8 hot dogs. Then you go and get some buns which only come in packs of 12. Therefore, once you cook your 8 hot dogs, you still have leftover buns, which means you will buy more hot dogs to use those buns, and you will then have to buy more buns to use those hot dogs that were bought to finish the original buns. The cycle continues. Mine will likely get buried, but here it goes. I am a farmer, and prices for our commodities in the U.S. have been depressed for 1/2 a decade now, with no end in sight. The USDA releases monthly reports on acres planted, projected yield, stocks of grains, etc. My theory is that the USDA makes these numbers up to manipulate the commodities markets to keep the prices at a level that encourages export. We had terrible yields and the lowest number of harvested acres in corn across the country last year of the last decade. Yet the price you can sell it today is below 1980 price. Why? Exports have slowed, so need to knock the price back. Hope this makes sense. I will answer questions if you have some. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes and the gold. I appreciate the good conversation and questions. The FBI killed MLK. It came to mind that women's makeup is actually secretly damaging their skin, so when they see it, they'd be convinced to buy more makeup. Pedophile rings in high places of power: government, Hollywood, church, mattress firm is a front for folks to launder money through. The amount of them in my town is absurd. There's like 3 within a mile stretch. 2 of them are across the street from each other. I am not buying it. Just like people aren't regularly buying mattresses, they intentionally put tiny pockets in women's clothing to sell purses and bags. Plenty of conspiracy theories are largely accepted to be true, as a matter of historical record. E.g., Nixon and LBJ conspired to prolong the Vietnam War to help Nixon's 1972 election campaign. Google, Facebook, etc. conspired with NSA to share data. PRISM program. NSA conspired to infiltrate bodies like NIST and weaken encryption standards. Bull Run program. CIA used whorehouses to kidnap people and drug them with LSD to experiment with behavior control. MKUltra, Tuskegee syphilis conspiracy, etc., etc. The phrase conspiracy theory has been purposefully warped to mean something farcical and crazy to discredit people who call out criminal conspiracies. That Beyoncé is actually 10 plus years older than she says she is. And Solange isn't her sister. She's her daughter. And it was hidden to help Beyoncé's career. Gabrielle Union has stated before she and Beyoncé were friends and the same age. Gabrielle Union is 47. Beyoncé is stated as being 38 currently. Edit. And that's what the Jay-Z and Solange elevator fight was about. Second edit. Also why the pregnancies were faked. Pregnancies are higher risk the older you get. But there are monsters in the ocean. We have only discovered 5% of our world's ocean, and I truly believe there is something hiding down there. Two conspiracy theorists walk into a bar. You can't tell me that was just a coincidence. Man. Paul Pierce pooped his pants in an NBA game and pretended he hurt his ankle to get a wheelchair off court. The reason Disney came out with a movie called Frozen was so that when you Googled Disney Frozen, you would get information about the movie and not websites talking about Walt Disney's body being frozen. The CCP had that doctor killed, the one that first alerted everyone to coronavirus. Sony had Michael Jackson killed so that they could secure the rights to the Beatles' discography. Epstein did not kill himself. All the novels written by Dean Koontz are in fact written by a golden retriever. The man in all of the author pictures was hired because no one would take a dog novelist seriously. Children will one day grow up and take over the world. JFK was only wounded by LHO's bullet. He was actually killed by a Secret Service agent's bullet accidentally, which is why there was such an obvious cover-up. LHO's bullet was a full metal jacket bullet which hit JFK in the throat before ricocheting into Governor Connally. The bullet which blew up half of JFK's head was almost certainly a hollow point bullet. Instead of continuing its trajectory like a FMJ would, the hollow point expands after the first object that it hits, which was JFK's head. There was one known weapon in play which was using hollow point bullets that day. It was a submachine gun which did not have the safety on and was operated by George Hickey. In the melee after LHO's shots were fired, the theory is that Hickey accidentally discharged his weapon and killed the president. The Secret Service could never let anyone know that they had accidentally killed the president. Hence their behavior in the aftermath. The British government did everything they could to ensure that the Lusitania would be sunk by a German U-boat and hasten America's entry into WW1. Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson, a known hitman who died in prison while serving a sentence for killing a federal judge, was one of 3 men who killed JFK. The day JFK was shot, 3 homeless men were arrested with photos of them dressed and known as the 3 tramps. None of these men were homeless. They were released shortly afterwards. Charles Harrelson repeatedly admitted he killed JFK. However, Charles Harrelson was just a trigger man. The CIA was responsible for JFK's death. Oswald was just a fall guy. Edit. Spelling. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time-traveling safari, meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight. But thanks to human, mechanical errors there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history. But there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also, the reason why we don't see many examples of UFOs now, even through pretty much everyone has a camera is because people are not that interested in this time period, since we already document aspects of human life all the time. That there is a perfect person for everyone. Not really a conspiracy theory, but I have to believe in something, I guess. I don't know if I buy my own conspiracy theory, and I'm not entirely sure what exactly the conspiracy is. But I'll repost the same thing I always post when this question is asked. I had a Vietnamese roommate in college. One time someone mentioned apples and my roommate said he could rip them in half. We all called bullshit, and so he did it to shut us up. It was pretty cool, but then he claimed that all Vietnamese people can do it. That didn't sound right, so now whenever I meet a new Vietnamese person, I ask in as polite and not creepy and not racist a way as I can if they can rip an apple in half. And I'll be damned if every person I've ever asked goes, yeah, sure. Also, most of them follow up with, all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. Then I always ask if that's just how people in Vietnam eat apples. And they always say, no, we just eat them the normal way. But all Vietnamese people can rip them in half if they want to. I truly don't know if I'm being trolled or not. If I ask the question and have an apple, I'll always give it to the person who claims they can do this. And they always can, so there's some truth to it. But I cannot figure out why. In my experience, almost all Vietnamese people claim that all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. That's a weird thing to claim. How are they so sure about what every other Vietnamese person can do? Are they implying that Laotians and Thai people can't do this? Is it a special trick they teach only in Vietnam? I would never claim that all Americans can juggle or that all white people can juggle. See, I don't even know if they're suggesting it's a racial trait, or a cultural skill, or is it that Vietnamese people are just really proud of their culture? So they like to fib about the skills everyone else has. And then when tested with an apple, all Vietnamese people are just so confident that they're awesome enough to do it that they just brute force the apple in half. Or was there a meeting once, and all Vietnamese people realized that they could help each other by making wild fruit claims about the skills of the Vietnamese so that they could trick dumb white boys like me into giving them free fruit to test their powers? I would welcome any data anyone else can offer on this. My sample size is admittedly small, about 8 Vietnamese people, so this could just be a statistical fluke. But when 6 people, who have almost certainly never met each other before, independently claim that all Vietnamese people have fruit powers, it makes you wonder whether it might just be true. Follow-up notes. Yes, I understand that plenty of non-Vietnamese folks can rip an apple in half. Hell, I can do it too. That doesn't make the Vietnamese fruit claims that I've experienced less peculiar. Yes, I know that British comedian Bob Mortimer can do this. By my rough estimate from past comments in previous threads, for every Vietnamese person claiming that they've never heard of this, there's another Vietnamese person claiming that all Vietnamese people can rip apples. And yet another non-Vietnamese person who asks a coworker or an in-law or a friend and learns that they can rip apples. Of that last group, it seems like about half of the Vietnamese people asked that, oh yeah? All Vietnamese people can do that. Let me address all Vietnamese people for a second. If a bunch of people give you free apples to test this, and you like apples, enjoy. If you get a bunch of annoying fruit inquiries that you don't want to deal with, I'm sorry, but really, is it my fault for accurately reporting my experiences with Vietnamese folks? Apple ripping, and Vietnamese folks' claims about apple ripping. Or should you really be annoyed at all of my past Vietnamese acquaintances who have made these claims? Anyway, at least hopefully this is more fun for you to talk about than the war. Original comment here, https://www.reddit R videos comments 5JJAZG on underscore would underscore I underscore lie underscore to underscore you underscore Bob underscore Mortimer underscore claims underscore he underscore can DBGVU9D. First repost here https://www. Reddit.com r AskReddit comments 736 what underscore conspiracy underscore theory underscore do underscore you underscore 100 underscore by underscore into underscore and underscore y DT1VG6J. We live in a simulation. However, the code is constantly being upgraded. In olden times, there were plenty of bugs that were easy to exploit if you knew where to look. Thus things like miracles and magic were basically hackers doing what they do. Okay, I don't really believe this is true. I just like it. Boris and the buses. When now Prime Minister Boris Johnson was going for the Conservative Party leadership, a truly odd story emerged about his hobbies, namely, that he liked to make and paint models of buses in his spare time. This is a pretty weird hobby at the best of times, and the British media went nuts reporting on how affable and ridiculous good old Boris was. Side note, it's not the first time that a Tory leader has come across as having some fucking odd hobbies in their spare time. Theresa May famously replied, when asked what the naughtiest thing she ever did as a child was, that she used to run through fields of wheat, earning her the greatest political nickname I've ever heard, the Thatcher in the Rye. However, I'm a big believer that they all got played, much like the idea that Disney only called a movie Frozen because it would turn Google search results for Disney Frozen away from rumors of Walt Disney's cryogenically frozen head. Which is a nice thought, but not one I buy into. I think this was Boris's attempt to divert attention away from other results linking Boris Johnson and buses, namely, the photo of him standing in front of a bus with a big fuck-off lie on the side of it that claimed that the UK would get £350 million a week to spend on the NHS after Brexit. Now the Boris Johnson bus story is a charming hobby in the traditional British mold, and not a straight-up lie that is threatening to fuck the country's economy back to the Stone Age.